Hello everyone, my name is Aarti and you're watching HW News. For yet another episode, we focus on the disaster that is unfolding in Joshimath. Now, generally we speak about a disaster once it has happened, but this is something that we see happening in front of our eyes as Joshimath inches closer to sinking. Now, we don't want to be alarmist here, but the situation in Joshimath is nothing less than horrifying. The houses that people built over the years with their blood and sweat have developed huge cracks, and the cracks are widening as the days go on. Roads have developed huge cracks, the buildings are leaning towards each other, and overall, more than 600 residential structures in this Himalayan town have been marked as dangerous here. People are being evacuated to safer zones, but there is a general fear that Joshimath may sink, that Joshimath may cease to exist. Apart from that, the locals here blame the mega projects that are going on as the reason behind this situation in Joshimath, especially the NTPC Tapovan hydroelectric power plant. However, NTPC in a statement has said that its project has nothing to do with the situation unfolding in Joshimath. So today we spoke to Dr. Anjal Prakash, Research Director at Bharati Institute of Public Policy, ISB Hyderabad, and apart from that, he is also one of the authors of the IPCC report. Let's have a look at this interview and understand what makes Himalayan region sensitive for the mega projects. Is the hydroelectric project the reason behind Joshimath crisis? And how much role has the climate change played in the land subsidence? So, first of all, thank you so much for talking to us. My first question to you is we have seen pictures and videos coming out of Joshimath. We have seen that huge cracks are appearing on the walls of the houses there and the roads as well. It's a very precarious situation. Locals are also very scared and they are being evacuated from there and taken to safer zones. But what do you think is the reason behind these cracks appearing on the walls of the houses there, on the roads there? It's a very dangerous situation, it seems.
So the government has appointed the committee, which is actually doing a more detailed understanding, and they have already is given report to the government. So the nuanced will come there, but the prima facie, what I see, and based on my own experience of working in the region for a decade almost, what I see that there are two reasons. One is definitely about the hydropower development which has happened in the tunneling process. What I understand from the reports that I've seen and read, the tunneling process has punctured one of the water regimes, and that has led to water gushing out from those the tunnels, and because the water regime has been punctured, that the water is actually gushing out from different sources, including traveling upwards and reaching to the houses of the people in Joshimath and coming out from there. So that's number one. You have to also understand the geology of Himalayan region. It is one of the youngest mountain, and also one of the thickly populated mountain if you compare it with other parts of the world. And that means that this area have to be are very fragile in nature. It can also so any small changes in the ecology in the regions usual way in which things are there, if any changes happens, it will have a greater impact, and that is what we have seen in Joshimath. The cracks and all has appeared in couple of weeks before, and now it has been widened because the water has not been stopped. We also have understood that the government has asked the tunneling process to stop, so that they can save the town. We still are waiting to hear more reports from there, but the situation, as you asked me, is very grim. People are in a very high risk zone and they're evacuating their houses.
So there is this narrative that is saying that Joshimath is actually sinking. Do you think that these cracks will lead to, in fact, Joshimath sinking down? Will this entire village go underwater?
See, this is the only time we'll tell you, because, but the geography of Joshimath is couple of sometime before, when the Joshimath was actually still coming up as a town. 1,000 years before, I think the the reports tells us that it was the glacier and the kind of a glacier melt leading to some kind of landslide, and the city has actually the town that we know has been established on that landslide. So it's already in an unstable terrain, and as I told you, it's the youngest mountain range. So any small changes affects people and the ecology very fast. What we have seen also of late last couple of years, that there has been incessant rain events that has marked Uttarakhand. Couple of events which has been really stark, and that leads to landslide. So landslide is very common in both eastern and western Himalayan regions, and little bit of harsh rain that you will see, it will lead to landslide. So that's why it is fragile ecology, and one has to be very careful what one is building there.
In February 2021, sir, there was a flash flood which led to a lot of destruction in the Hydel project there also. More than 100 the laborers were also missing in that entire region. Do you think that was a sort of warning of what exactly was coming for Joshimath or all these areas? Because now there is a report that not only Joshimath but also Nainital and Uttarkashi and several other regions are also in danger zone.
Yeah, so we are referring to the Chamoli disaster. That is a glacial avalanche which has happened, and reports are still, the scientific report still has not come in the public domain. We know that the Vadi Institute has done a carried out a study which we don't have an access to at this moment of time. But what I know from my scientific community, that this was very clear cut a climate change led event, because February is a time when glacier mass balances increases because of the snowfall happens in the upper region. Suddenly there was this after 5 days or 4 days of heavy rainfall, there was a one day which was a full sunshine day, and that is how the glacier, which was the snow which was still settling on the glacier, had broken out, and then that led to glacial avalanche. We also did not come to know about this, because we had rarely monitors. Very few more glaciers in the region has been monitored, and that is why we were caught unaware. And Chamoli disaster was actually should have been an eye opener for the authorities as well as the government, not to mend with the environment and re-evaluate the project. Even that time, when I was speaking to the media and other community, we've been telling that this is the wake up call, but things unfortunately has not changed, and we have reached to a Joshimath disaster. I hope this event also is taken note by the authorities and the people, policymakers, as they are they are listening to us, and stop all the hydropower development and the infrastructure development, re-evaluate them from the climate lens, and then execute. You also have to understand that I'm not against development. I am, the basic necessities of life must reach to all the people, especially in the Himalayan region, because they are unserved for many areas, right? The water, sanitation, health, infrastructure has to reach there, and it. But what I'm saying is that this has to be differentiated with the large scale development process that we are seeing. So the Char Dham project, or the hydro project, micro hydro projects, or the NTPC project that we are talking about at this moment. These needs to be reevaluated before you actually move forward.
So, whenever we talk about the Joshimath crisis, also refer to the report that was prepared by Mr. M.C. Mishra, the then collector of the Garhwal region, and he had, in fact, in his report, had stated multiple points and suggested that there should not be heavy developments or heavy development projects that should be carried out in that particular region. But in the subsequent years, this particular report was sort of buried, and the suggestions were not followed. Do you think in the last 50 years we could have done things differently, and prevented this kind of a disaster happening in Joshimath?
No, absolutely, we could have done things differently, but there's the economy of hydropower projects, and there are ecosystems on which people operate around hydropower projects. Each projects are in thousands of crores of rupees, and there's a huge rent seeking which goes with that thing, and that's why after government after government, and it is all beyond ideological dispensations of the government, we see that the hydropower projects are still existing, and it is also being projected as a green, energy source, which actually it is not. If you look at the process through which hydropower gets developed over a period of time, one is that it takes long time for any hydropower project to come up. It takes about 15 to 20 years for a project to come, and for as minuscule as 500 550 megawatt of energy, which you could have actually now, with the advent of other technology that we have, we can actually do much better. So if bringing energy security is the what I would say is the logic behind development of hydropower, that logic probably do not stand the test of time at this moment as we are speaking, because the return on investment can be much better if we divert this to other more environmental benign process of generating energy, especially the renewable energy that we have at hand. So hydropower projects still exist, and that's the whole worrisome, is that as I'm speaking to you, Uttarakhand has planned, and you can check on their website, about 12 project, which is already the project report has been prepared, and about the 6,000 megawatt project of electricity generation is expected from the 12 project that we have, and these are all in the making. So imagine one project is creating such havoc in the region. Imagine 12 more projects which will come up in the region, in the entire Uttarakhand, and what kind of havoc it will bring. So that is where I think it must stop. I would say the hydropower must stop. See, Joshimath's example tells us what we should not do in Himalayas.
But while the locals and experts like you believe that it is the hydropower project that is responsible for this situation in Joshimath, the NTPC has in fact even taken out a circular, and it has said that its project has nothing to do with whatever is happening in Joshimath, and it is in fact the geological situation of the Joshimath that is causing this havoc. What do you have to say about that?
So if the NTC project has nothing to do with it, why did they stop? They could have continued the whole work, right? Why did the government ask their own projects to stop for a while? There is the connection, but there's also conflict of interest. These people, their jobs are at stake. They can't speak beyond. And I have spoken to a couple of NTPC officers, beyond their authority that they have, in sense that on a personal level, some of them will agree that these are creating problems for the environment, but as an official they will not be able to tell you anything on record. And I have done extensive field work. I have done analysis of Tista 5 in the western Himalayan region, and yeah, in the eastern Himalayan region we were looking at Tista 5, and we wanted to check the people's perception on what is their perception. And we found out that it has been, the locals do not support anywhere. If you go across the Himalayas, locals do not support hydropower development. It is the people who have a vested interest in development of hydropower are the one who are doing it.
The government has now marked three zones in Joshimath, that is danger zone, buffer zone, and completely safer zone. In the danger zone, whatever structure is there, they are demolishing it with bulldozers. And there are two hotels which are leaning towards each other. These hotels are also being demolished now. But do you think this demolition of only residential structures will be enough to save Joshimath at this point of time?
Yeah, that is something that I'm not qualified to speak about at this moment, because I look at more social and policy aspects of the process, and this is something that an engineer or a ground level staff will be able to tell you more about the geological functioning of the area and all that. I am not qualified to speak on this.
So my last question to you is, if we have to save Joshimath at this point of time, or if we have to prevent the disaster that is happening in Joshimath, what exactly should be done? Because as you rightly pointed out during this interview, that you are not anti-development, but whenever somebody talks about projects like these, mega projects like these, they are termed as anti-development. They are looked down upon. They are looked down as a obstruction in the entire development process. So, as an expert who has been flagging these issues, what do you have to say about this? How can we prevent such disasters in the future?
Yeah, I've been giving this example many times that once I was doing field work, it was a remote location, and I was in the village, which was about 3 hours by foot. We have gone to the village in Uttarakhand itself, and there was a pregnant lady who had developed some complication. We had to bring her to from the Charpoi, travel all across 3 hours to reach the nearest health service that we had at Bay, and then she had developed the complications. So I am totally for bringing very basic, at least basic motorable conditions for people, roads and other things, infrastructure that is there. The water supply, people are totally dependent on the streams for water supply. Now Har Ghar Jal program is there, which is laudable that the government is thinking and planning to bring in water point, because women face drudgery. They have to go long kilometers to just fetch a pot of water. So these are things which is necessities of life, and I'm totally for it, that for them. But I also see that whatever that we are deciding to do, it must be environmentally benign. It must be also the local people must have say in the process of development. Right, that is where we see a disconnect, and that's why these large mega projects keep coming.
Right. So I missed one question. I would just like to ask you that how much role has climate change played in this entire havoc that is causing in Joshimath now?
See, climate change is a force multiplier. So, if your systems of management is not, intact, climate change is going to strike much more. And that's why what we are seeing is that there's sometime it is going beyond adaptation. We have seen that these areas we could have adapted much better if we would have had a better infrastructure, and also we would have had a better, what I would say, systems of environment management. For example, very simple thing about more and more, forest areas to be declared, or some of these areas could be kept sacrosanct, not much of a meddling with the immediate environment would have done. That would have been very good, and still we could have fought my climate change issues, because and Uttarakhand has been facing these issues. So climate change is out there. It is going to affect our lives. Whoever is staying there, it will be directly affecting their lives and livelihood. It's a force multiplier, but it also can create problems in the future. So we have to be much more careful in planning some of these things. Yeah, and Chamoli disaster is a good example of what we should not be doing there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for all this information.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.